Hello and welcome to another video. In today's episode, I want to look into how you show up in life and are you actually aware of the way you show up in life? You know what I mean? How do you respond to people? How do you communicate? How do you feel while you communicate? Are you aware of that? See, most people are not. And no shame there, no blame there. It is about how do you want to show up for yourself and, of course, also for other people. But the thing is, how do you want to present yourself? There are many, many people who act out of fear. Now, I have done that. Many, many clients I know have done that. And what they said afterwards is always the same thing. It's like, I haven't been aware that I have been acting out of fear. I didn't know that I was doing that because I was afraid to show up who I truly am. I didn't know that. So today we want to work on your awareness. We want to learn how can you drop into your heart space more so you ultimately can show up differently. My name is Patricia. I'm a life coach and I'm here to support you. So feel free to ask any questions, add some comments if this is useful for you, right? And let's share together. And with this said, let's already start today's video. I want to dive into how people unknowingly present themselves in a very, very weak way. And by weak, I don't mean necessarily bad. I mean they're not in their strength, okay? And being weak and vulnerable is completely different things. It has nothing really to do together. Weakness is your energy is not strong. The way you show up is not strong. I can be very vulnerable and strong. I can present myself and say, today is really not a good day. And I have experienced this, this, and this. And I feel very sad. And maybe I cry. But I'm very certain. I'm very present. I'm very showing up for myself. Okay? And I can do this in a very kind way. And because of that, people start to connect to me more. Now, if I'm showing up, and I'm seeing this a lot of times in a work environment where we try to be someone, right? We try to mask ourselves so we look better. And this is not because of you. This is not because you're not doing this because you think that I don't know, you have to show up this way. It's also, and this is an important key factor, it's because our environment sometimes asks us to show up a certain way. So not everything comes from you. And it's very important that you understand that factor. It's the same way then growing up and, taking in certain beliefs that are actually not yours, but because you were too small to understand, you just took this as your own, not knowing and not questioning if they are really aligning with who you are, right? And this is simply because the capacity of your brain wasn't developed. And so you actually took in certain things in your life between 0 and 7 that is not necessarily in your best interest, but because this is how human works, okay? This is how you grow. And so this means that when we are getting an adult, we actually have to clear out certain things. We have to learn more about how our brain works, how our heart works, and how can we express ourselves in another way. Now, most of the time, this is very painful, especially when we start to realize that our communication is really, really weird, right? It's really not in alignment with who we truly are. And so, coming back to this work environment, right, where we are trying to show up a certain way, showing up strong, showing up, hey, look at me, I'm awesome, I'm this or I'm that. I'm looking out for validation. I'm looking out to be seen, to be heard, because, most of us actually haven't really experienced this unconditional love because our parents and the parents of our parents weren't able to really give this to the children. They were busy with other things and they couldn't really go and provide this for us. But it's a basic need. It's a basic need for humans to feel loved, to feel seen, to feel heard, and to feel acknowledged for who we truly are. And, when we are growing up in this environment and we feel this lack, many of us actually transfer this into adult life. So this never stops. And our body is actually quite a cool machine. But for some reason, we have never really learned how to use this machine. So we operate from a very, very programmed way. And you see this in so many lectures, right? But we have to understand then how to make the change, make the shift from, okay, I'm aware now what I'm doing at work, for example, to who am I and how do I want to show up, right? This brings such an uncertainty with it because I don't know who I am, right? So I have shown up maybe for 40 years this way, and now I realize that's not who I am, and I'm getting confused because I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? Usually it's like, oh, but after that it follows like, oh, I really did this. You know what I mean? And we have to understand that that shouldn't be judged. It shouldn't be that we feel we have done wrong, we have failed to see this all through these years. It was also not really the time to really be self-aware. This is coming more and more where people start to realize, oh, this is not how I want to show up. This is not how I want to feel. And this is not who I am, right? It doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work anymore that you have a mask on and that you're kind of showing up like someone you're not. So for this work example, there are many people, and I'm sure you have met this person, and it was once me, so it's really a good example. I would show up very, very busy in a working environment. And it's not about I wasn't busy, but I would put this even higher and I would even go into stress mode, right? I would stress my body and I would tell my body constantly from the morning to the evening, I have so much to do and I'm almost not able to even finish all of that. Now, is it true from a work task, like when you look at the list and the hours I have, did that match? Yeah, sometimes not, right? It's not really about I have so much work and I have a limited time to actually do that, and that causes me stress. It's about I choose to be stressed. I choose to be nervous. I choose to communicate and run from one desk to the other and kind of giving other people a hard time because I have a hard time. And I have a hard time to actually do all of that. And there are many people who are like, you know, I really like that. I like when it's stressed and when there's a lot going on because I get so much things done and blah, 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 all of that. The problem is when you look at the score of what makes us sick, it's actually stress. It's one of the key factors of why we are sick. Now, if you're doing this, I don't know, once or twice in, I don't know, right? Like seldom. It's not such a big deal. I'm talking about those people who are doing this on a constant basis because this is the way how they learned to show up. This is the way how they get validation. This is the way how they get seen, how they get heard. This is what they learned from a very, very young age, that they receive some kind of confirmation for their being, right? It goes quite deep. They receive a kind of a confirmation for their being, the right to be here, right? The right to be in this position. They fight, they constantly fight in a position that I have the right to be here. I have the right to be in this place. While no one else is questioning that, but you're trying to prove yourself over and over and over again. And this actually causes you a lot of stress. Now, this is just an example, right? But the way how you communicate, so it goes as follows. You go to someone else and you start, I need this and this and this, and you did something wrong here, and blah, blah. You start immediately with your words to fire, right? And maybe the words itself, they're not even that harsh, but the energy you bring in that conversation makes other people want to attack you because you're fighting, and what comes back to this is this. You see, you never really receive you never really receive someone fighting super hard and someone like, oh, I just want to give you some love and some peace, and that's not how it works. So we have to understand the way how we show up, the way how we go into a conversation with this nervousness, with this stress, right? This causes other people to stress too. And then this again fires up the whole thing, right? So it gets bigger, bigger, and bigger. Well, you may not even want that. And then you're like, I'm so stressed. I'm so stressed. And it's actually your body telling you that, but you don't see it. You don't hear it because for you, this kind of stress is normal. It's normal that you are like this. You're even getting annoyed when people are not stressed because you're like, I have so much to do and this is my pile and blah, 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 and you over there, you're not doing your job right because you're not stressed. And this actually means you have nothing to do, right? This is what we learned. You need to be stressed in order to show other people that you're doing your work good, right? You're the good girl, you're the good boy, you are providing, I don't know, whatsoever, right? And it's so fascinating for me to now look from another point of view into this whole story because I've once been there and I know many people who are still there. And it's about the awareness we bring into the table, and we are like, I can show up like this, but is this really my authentic self? Is this really how I want to show up for the next 20 years, right? Maybe 40 years, maybe. Is it really how I want to show up and how I want to be seen? Is this how I want to see myself? Is this actually how I want to be treated? It's very interesting, right? Because you treat yourself like this, you don't really want to be treated like this, as like the mean person or the person who is really aggressive or, this whole thing about the can-do mentality, and you need to be super open-minded, blind, you know, all those kind of stigmas we put out, right? It's kind of fascinating because we all put this out. You need to be always super flexible and blah blah blah. There's a lot of things that actually come to the table of what an employee wants from us, right? And this puts on a lot of stress, and we try to kind of fill in, or kind of put everything in the box that we offer. What we usually don't ask ourselves is, what is the return, right? The return cannot be only money, because our soul is not getting happy with that. Our soul doesn't care for cash. Our soul doesn't care for material. Our soul cares how we feel when we do certain things. And so if you stress yourself over a period of time, you're not doing yourself a favor. It's not worth the cash. It's not worth the whole hustle mentality, right? And, you know, in so many fields, it has been shown how much impact this whole stress has. Now, I want to go into why we are doing that, right? I mean, that's kind of interesting. If we all know that, so let's put it as we reach the next step and we start to realize, oh, I'm really showing up like a nervous little girl who is trying to, hey, can you see me? Can you see me? Hello, hello, hello. I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Can you give me attention, love? While attention is not love, okay? It's not the same. But if you have grown up in an environment where you haven't really received love, if you are a performer, you were looking for attention because that was what you matched with love. And this is also how you show up in the work environment. It's like a ding ding, okay? If you are doing this, you have to ask yourself why you're doing it and what is the lack you actually feel, because you're not doing it to just get this. You actually want something else, but maybe you have never experienced what true love is. And now you can argue and say, yeah, but we are in the work environment, right? Because we are quite in the work environment example right now. You know, there you cannot expect any love. Like, what's that all about, right? Feelings, fuck that, right? I mean, screw all of that, because we are at work, and at work it only counts cash, performance, and I don't know, everything like that, right? Stress, right? Showing up. Now I really forgot what I wanted to say. Huh. Interesting. I really completely lost it. That's funny. That's really funny. Huh. Well, maybe it comes back. Let's see. So let's dive into... maybe I have been talking about that. Okay, so let's raise the awareness to, I don't want to show up like this anymore because I don't feel well with it. It doesn't work for me. And I'm trying to make a change. Okay, I'm trying to change. What can I do? First, you have to understand that you're doing all of that for a reason. Okay? There is a reason, and it's a valid reason. You're doing it because you're trying to cover up something. Most of the time, underlying, there is a fear of not getting something. You're trying your very best, like, as I said, a child. Hello, 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 like that. And it's not visible for you necessarily because you don't hear that inner voice. So you're shutting that down. But your inner voice is always telling you that the way how you act is actually from a fear place. Okay, there is either way fear or there is love. If you're acting out of fear, you're never getting really a great result for yourself and for others, okay? If you're acting out from love, you can actually grow from here. But it needs quite a lot of work from your side, at least from the beginning. Now, if you're working out from fear, people are saying, yeah, but I'm not afraid. I'm angry. Yeah, but underlying that anger, underlying that rage, actually lies a lot of fear, right? You're trying to protect yourself. Well, why are you protecting yourself? Because you're afraid. You see, there is many, if not all, emotions that go back to either way, love or fear. Now, this is interesting. Well, if you're at work and you're trying to understand, why am I doing it? Am I really doing it out of love? And then you're like, doesn't feel right. Okay, I'm doing it for something else. So what is it that I need, right? What is it that I need actually? I want to be seen for my work. Okay. If I'm doing that to be seen for the work I'm doing, do I actually offer some validation myself for the work I'm doing? Do I think that I'm really doing a good job? Do I think that I deserve my own love towards that? Most often people feel a lack there, and this really comes from way, way beyond, right? It's when we were small and we couldn't experience that. And this actually then asks us to continue the journey to finally find our own experience with love, right? Because ultimately, who we are, right? And that's very, very simple. Who we are as a being, right? As a soul, whatever you want to call it, is love. And when you start to recognize that you are already that, you don't need to fight for it. But it's very, very hard if you feel anger or rage. It's very hard because you don't feel that. You feel upset, you feel angry, you feel the whole planet is against you. You don't feel love, you feel hate. And it's very, very deep. Or sadness, right? Whatever, frustration. And so what you have to learn is how you can go back and drop into the heart. And you haven't learned that, okay? You haven't learned that. It's not your fault. You haven't learned to go into your heart space. You have learned to go into your head space. Now your head space is very, very limited. Very limited. You learned a lot of things on how to behave, what to think, how to feel, right? certain feelings were not allowed. Don't show up like this. Don't do this. Don't do that. So you compromised yourself very, very much. And you put yourself into a box, right? Because humans like to label. We like to label, you know? There is also this thing that when you're sick, you want to know, you want to get your diagnosis, right? Especially for, let's say, mental sickness or whatsoever. You want to know a diagnosis because you feel that then you can actually do something for it. What happens if you're getting many diagnoses, right? Many different diagnoses. And so this is not about you being sick. This is about you being healthy and you want to somehow find a label for your issues. I believe we should stop labeling that because it just puts us in another box. So from this box to this box, it's kind of like, let's not do that. Let's not small ourselves, right? So let's leave this box open. And let's be open to explore who we are. So when we start to realize, okay, well, this is not how I want to show up. This is not how I want to express. Well, before I make really changes in the outside, I need to first understand, who is this one here? How can I show up? How can I truly sink into myself? How can I do that? Right? How can I wake up in a more happy place? And in addition, what will be the sacrifice for that? There is what is the wording? No pain, no gain or something? It's not exactly that. But it's about, if I learn more about my boundaries, if I learn more about how to speak and what to do in which situation, and in which, let's put it this way, in which energy I want to show up, right? So if I have an argument, I may only want to speak when I'm very, very clear, right? As I said before, our mind is very, very limited, only does what it's known, and doesn't want to bring us into situations that are uncertain. So it tries to protect us. Protection, though, is not always really good for us. So if we want to expand, if we want to grow, however that looks like, and whatever this means for you, we have to drop in our heart. And learning this is, it's not difficult. It's just very different. Very different. Because you start to see how the world actually works. You see, I started this work 5 years ago, like really deeply. And before that, I was working and operating with the mind. I had the feeling I figured it out. I was so wrong. I wouldn't even say I figured it out now because I learned that, you never really figured out everything. So what I'm trying to do here is to give you an understanding that uncertainty is not a bad thing. Uncertainty just means that you're growing. Have you ever felt stuck? Stuck in a job, stuck in a feeling, stuck in a situation, stuck in, I don't know, anything, right? When we feel stuck, there is no growth. But it's also because we are not thinking really outside of what we know. We are thinking inside of this little box. So when we start to break out of that, we get a lot of uncertainty, and there's a lot of things that actually break down because the way how we show up, the way how we behave, the way how we feel attracts different people. We will push people away that are not longer working for us, right? Are not longer good for us. Now, this also means that a lot of times this involves really, really close people, which can include family, especially family, because they're so close to us. They have known us for all our life, and it's hard to make a change with those close people in the beginning. So we try to maybe be for ourselves or be with ourselves for a while to understand how we want to show up. And you can do this really on a daily basis, right? You can start to understand that not everyone will be on your page, especially the close people, especially those ones who you actually want to be understood by. Those are the people you need to watch out for, not to fall back into the old system that you once programmed, that once was okay. What you realize now is that this is not how I want to show up. And you start to see that in order to make a change, you have to change the whole way how you show up, right? And you do this step by step, and what you need is consistency. It's not really about motivation. Let's be really real. I had many points where I didn't want to do it anymore. I was like, I've done so many healing. I have done so many journalings. I have done all of this. But see, the change is only coming when you are working on yourself on a daily basis. And this doesn't need to be 2 hours, 4 hours per day. This can be at 10 minutes. This can be, especially when you're working, that you really see, okay, this was my day. This is not really who I am. I want to show up differently. Like personally, I don't open up a communication, even if I have, even if I'm really, really angry and I really want to make my point or bring my point across. Especially then, actually, I start to take a break and I start to center myself first. I breathe really deeply. I start to drop into my heart. What is the truest for me? How can I show up in a more authentic way? And how can I actually bring this into more in a peaceful, thing? People are telling me, yeah, but this doesn't work in a work environment. You cannot, show up like this. Well, the way how I do it is I actually say, listen, I would love to talk to you. I would like to communicate to you. I just need a few minutes, or I need a day to actually get my stuff together, because I want to make sure that the conversation we are having is actually a grounded one, is actually something that we can both benefit from, or the group, And so if you're saying something like this, believe me, pretty much everything can wait. And there are people who don't understand that. And you have to be okay that people don't understand. And you have to learn that people will always come. If you can hear that, she's having a conversation with herself, My cat is actually trying to say, listen to her. No, just making this up. And we have to learn that working through this is actually not a once showing up. It's not a one-time showing up and then we are done. It is about showing up a few times showing up. And over the years, over the months, over the days, being consistent, showing up. And when you start this, you have to really know your why. I find this very, very crucial. I can tell you my why. I can tell you why I try to show up differently than how I've been raised. I try to show up differently than I have been in my 20s. And the reason is I felt very drained. I felt that I'm missing out a lot of things because I wasn't able to receive, because I was always in this fighting mood. I was trying to protect myself. As I've learned from my upbringings that I'm not safe. And so my fear was that if I'm letting down my guard, I will be treated shitty, right? That was my fear. And I realized that letting down my guard doesn't mean that I'm letting myself be treated badly. It means that I have set my rules very clearly on how people communicate to me. It means that I'm showing up very, very much confident in myself. I'm standing up for myself, regardless if people get it or not. It's not about them if they understand it or not. I want to stand up for myself, because the more I do that, the more I give other people approval that they can show up like them as well. See, I can feel when someone is having a conversation with me, but actually not being honest to himself. Now, he may or she may understand that or not, right? They may not even understand that what they're saying and the way how they feel doesn't really align. So I can feel that, but they can't maybe. But if I'm showing up like this and I'm giving them the okay that they can go like this and say no too, I'm actually hoping that other people start to see, oh, it's actually okay if I'm communicate that I don't want to show up like this, or that I don't want to do this. I don't need to, I don't know, do this group event, for example, that is actually quite private and I don't really want to do it, but I feel I have to, but I don't want to do it. And I'm scared to say no. But if I'm showing up and I'm showing you that you can say no, because I'm treating myself like this and I'm trying to be the best version of myself, I'm giving you the approval to do the same. And this is a ripple effect, and it comes over the years, where you see that people start to really, really get deeper into, I can show up like this. It's actually okay for me if I do this or that. And this is so rewarding. It's so rewarding because you see that from the work you're doing, that other people can calm themselves too. We are way too stressed. We are stressing ourselves to death. And I really mean that. It's not okay. It's not good for us. We are stressing ourselves to death, believing that this will change the world. But what really is changing the world is getting more in peace with ourselves, stopping this inner war of showing up like something we are not, showing up like someone we are not, right? It calms us to show up in a more peaceful way. And because of that, I can always say, even if I'm very in peace and I'm in balance, I can say, listen, this really makes me nervous and I'm scared to do this and this. But I can say this in a full strength, you know? This doesn't give you the approval to step over me because you feel, oh, she has given some kind of weakness. No. But if I'm coming like this, this is not really, you know, I'm showing up very, very differently. And if I'm showing up the second one, you can tell that that person is not really showing up for themselves. They're trying to get something from the outside world. And that never works. It never does, I tell you. It never does. See, you're receiving only if you're allowing yourself to feel that way. Now, if I'm allowing myself to feel a certain love level, I can also only allow other people to love me in that way. Right? Because I don't know the other one. I thought that's it, right? I thought that the level you bring across is the ultimate. Because I'm not allowing myself to explore. And so you are only giving me what I'm able to receive. And if I'm working on myself and I'm starting to communicate, I start to feel different about myself. I also start to see the red zone, the zone that I'm not letting you pass. Now, are there sometimes people coming in and they're very, very aggressive or nervous whatsoever? Generally, they come to me and they start to be, I don't know, they start in their own zone and they start to like, right? Like this. These are people who are not really standing in their truth, and they also try to emotionally dump their shit on you. And you can really tell them in a very, very quiet way that, listen, I'm here to support you, but the way you're showing up right now makes it extremely hard for me to even want to talk to you, because I don't want to get into that level where you're at. And how about this? Let's talk tomorrow. Let's see, and then, maybe you can rethink on what you really need from me. What is it that you want, right? And try to focus yourself on this conversation. And so sometimes people, when you start doing this, they're like, ha, oh, they get really angry, even more. Maybe not, maybe yes. And then they come the next day and they're totally calm. You know why? Because you're ready to hear them. You're ready to see them. You're ready to acknowledge them. And you know what gives that to them? They feel seen. They feel heard. Right? They feel loved because you're taking the time to actually consider really what they have to say. Sometimes those people who are acting out, they also don't really know what they want because they haven't really focused on their real issue. They just think, oh, it's obvious. You haven't completed this job, this task, and I'm angry because you missed the deadline whatsoever. And the way, though, how they act out is way heavier than it actually could be, right? That's also how you see that somehow I haven't really done anything wrong, but you're acting out like this. And you should be a little bit more down because, I haven't really done what you're saying. And so you see then, oh, this is a little bit over the top. And that also means that if you're on the receiving end of something like this, you don't have to take it personally. And you don't have to excuse yourself or make yourself lower so that that person feels better. You're not helping them. You see what I mean? You're not helping them. By lowering your own standards or your energy, you're actually giving them approval that the way how they behave is okay, while it's not. You see, while it's not. So make sure that you're not agreeing on that. but the way how you say it can still be very friendly and very open. And that, believe me, it will never hurt you. Never. It will not hurt you to be kind. And you know why? What he's saying or she's saying is not really relevant. It's about what do you give out is coming back. This is great, right? And you see, the last year, I've been training this over and over and over again for so many people. And it's interesting how their life changes slowly, but surely, right? The way how they show up is different. Like a year ago, it was so different. And that's so cool. That's what I wish is happening for many, many people. You know, to be more in this peace and not to be in this nervousness, in this phase of stress. We have to learn how to calm ourselves. It's not normal for us to be in this busy thing. And however this may look like, maybe my explanation here hasn't been enough for you. Feel free to book a discovery call and to come and work with me. You see, I believe that working on your own health and trying the best you can for yourself is a ripple effect for everyone else. For everyone else, you're doing such a big service. And I'm not saying this that you need to come to me. I'm saying this that you can go to anyone you feel connected to and where you have done the research if they're actually able to provide you what you need. Okay, you have to be a little bit concerned if it comes down to with whom you want to work with on your mental health. And it's about really digging deep into their accounts, social media, whatsoever. Check out if you like what they're doing to really see, is this connecting? And never forget that you are in the driver's seat here. So instead of, or going to a coach, going to a life coach means that you are the expert of your life. There is no such thing as I'm telling you what is right for you. I'm showing you how to sit in that driver's seat, because at one point I will not be there anymore, and you need to be able to do it by yourself. You need to be able to make decisions that are for you, not against you. And that's what you learn over the time with coming to me, for example, right? So with this said, thank you so much for taking the time. Let me know in the comment section if this is actually, if this has helped you, right? I always try to give my best to put together what I've seen over the time and how I can somehow give something out that many people may need. And I hope this has given you some guidance, right? Some guidance on how to really do that. There is one more thing. When we are saying that we are dropping into our heart, the easiest way to do that, and it may actually come across and you're like, ugh, this feels awkward. This feels really weird. Maybe this is not for me if it feels so weird. You know what I mean? You gotta question yourself and you gotta say or see that many things that we are doing new, we don't like. Because we have no idea what to expect. And our mind doesn't know things. We have no clue of the outcome. So we are trying to prevent ourselves. Okay? So here's the thing, what you can do when you are out of balance, when you feel stressed, when you feel something is not going the way how you would like it to show up in your world. So you start to close your eyes and you put one hand to your heart or both. And you start to breathe very, very deeply, but through your nose. And you really bring the breath down to your heart. And what you think or what you imagine is like a rose who is opening up little by little by little by little. And you start to explore how this rose is opening up and sharing love through that kind of rose, and it's coming out, and you can feel the love in every single cell, in every muscle, in every bone, and in every nerve. And when you start to practice this and you start to feel it, you start to feel how it is opening up more and more and more and more. And then you ask yourself, if I'm coming out of this very, very peaceful state, is the way how I'm showing up right now in my very highest best? Is this the best I can do at this very moment? It's a very honest question, very down to earth actually. And while you start to experience that this rose is opening up more and more and more and more, and it's actually never ending. It's not something that ends. Like this love you experience right now needs practice. And you may or you may not feel anything right now. I remember I have tried this so many times, and I think the first few times I was like, really? I cannot feel anything. I have no idea what you're talking about. And also, it's not solving my problem, right? Now that's the mind. That's the mind. The mind telling you that it knows better, and stop feeling, because feeling isn't getting you anywhere, right? That's the mind. You have to start to catch yourself when you are going there, right? So that you are actually not going into that little thing who is like me, 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 me. And you just have to say, thank you for this thought, not right now. You can go. I accept that you're here, but you can go now. And just practice every single time you feel stressed. You know, I used to do this when I had little breaks. Like for me, it worked best when I was working. Every single time I had a little break, or I was even at my computer and in a big room, office, whatsoever, because no one can really tell what is going on inside of you, right? They don't know that you're just doing an exercise of like a couple of minutes. And you can start to practice this, you know, a few minutes every single day, a few times, couple of times per day, and start to drop into that, start to open this up. And when you start to open it up, I tell you, it's a different life. It's really what has brought me so much peace, because no one could tell me anymore that I'm not deserving love, I'm not capable of love, and I need to show up a certain way because else I'm not loved, you know. It really, really helped me. So with this said, thank you so much for your time, and never forget to think this way, that it's not going to change every single thing from today to tomorrow, but it's going to change over time. It's like studying a new subject. It needs time to make a shift on the outside, but it can already in the inner world very, very fast. Really, in a couple of seconds, it can change and shift for you, and that's what you need first. Okay. Thanks so much, and bye.